Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Richards. I'm Malcolm's eldest son. For those of you who several seconds ago were going, who the bloody hell's that? Yeah, I have changed a bit. I've been feeding in the top packet for Michael long. First up, what I'd really like to do is, on behalf of Bernie and the family, is thank everyone in the local Naracoorte community for your support. It's been absolutely fantastic. There's been phone calls, there's been people dropping in, there's been cards, there's been flowers. It's just been absolutely fantastic and we really appreciate that much. I'd also thank all of you for turning up today. I'm sure it's how many you'll get if you pass away, and I know Dad was pretty keen to fill the pitch, so he'd be absolutely wrapped. Thank you very much. In particular, I'd like to make mention of a few people who happened in the right place at the right time, or wrong place at the wrong time, however you want to look at it. But I'd like to thank the hospital staff who cared for Dad in his final moments. I would like to thank Anne-Marie, Heather, Sue, Tim, Jack, Rhonda, Vicky, Snake and Collie. You guys were spontaneous and immediate response for getting around there and helping Mum out, and we really, really appreciate it. Right, I've been told that I should take 6 minutes to get this done. The first run was 5, I think I'm down to 15. Ant said if people laugh it takes longer, 16. Right, it's in sort of sections. The first section is Malcolm's early years. The actually 93. World War II raging across the globe. Countries were in an absolute mess, and yet somehow in a little town named Windsor, just north of Adelaide, on one particular day it seemed like a relatively normal day. Jack Richards came home from work, said hello to his lovely mate Richards. The tin lids were there, Dennis, Pat, Judy. Beautiful. Now, we're not sure how it happened. It might have been the half glass of sherry that may be consumed. It may have been the hypnotic melody of Glenn Miller, In the Mood, emanating from the wireless. But whatever happened, Jack had a bit of a twinkle in his eye, a bit of a spring in his step, and successfully managed to throw the leg later that evening. And 9 months later, and the next, August 1944, the 7th, Malcolm Richards was born. He was actually born in Balaclava Hospital. Windsor was small and didn't have one. And he was born the youngest son of Jack and Maisie Richards, and immediately became the baby brother to Dennis, Pat. Pat's now deceased, unfortunately, and Judy. Malcolm's primary school years were fairly interesting. The issue was that his dad, Jack, was an engineer for the main roads, highways, and they were building a highway from Keith to Taylor Bend. So the family literally packed up for Windsor, and they were living like gypsies in sort of workers' tents, sort of moving along the highway as it progressed. So they started at Keith, went to Culburra, down to Coomandoo, and so on. Now the interesting thing is that sleeping in a tent's not bad fun for a weekend, but when you have to survive a few years and a few winters, it's pretty ordinary. One of the things that Malcolm learnt early on was that if he gets dressed the night before and sleeps fully clothed, he didn't have to undress in the freezing cold in the morning. So that was a neat way to get around it. The other interesting thing about those tents is they're actually quite large. The tent Malcolm and Dennis used to sleep in, Jack managed to squeeze a table tennis table in there. And the table tennis table was a fond experience where Jack could teach Malcolm how to play table tennis. The issue was that this bond session was too infrequent. The main reason was the equipment kept breaking. Now, it wasn't that Malcolm was a bad sport or anything like that, it was just that he had this monstrous forehand, and when he'd go for the big one, he'd occasionally get the supporting tent pole and he'd just come through just the handle. That's gone. Interesting, later in life, Tommy Collins would play table tennis with Malcolm, and he too would feel what the pole felt. Moving on, secondary school, 1958. Malcolm's in year 9 at Keith. Now 58 is a pivotal year in Malcolm's life. So many things happen. The first one is he got expelled from school. He's playing chasey in the yard, absolutely tear down the yard, turned the corner, principal's coming the other way, whoosh, cleaned him up, beautiful. Malcolm, being the gentle giant that he is, helped get him off the ground, bit of a revival, try and get him out of La La Land. The headmaster slowly come to, slowly remembered what's happened, got very angry very quickly, and said, "Malcolm Richards, you're expelled! Get out of the schoolyard now!" So Malcolm hung his head, started walking out the yard, walking home. It's about 2k walk to the house, thinking all the time, holy shit, what's the old man going to do? He got expelled. Luckily, the headmaster came to his senses, chased him down the road and brought him to school, and he got off scot-free. The other important in 1958 is that's actually the year that Malcolm decided to become a Melbourne Football Club supporter. He just thought, look, I need to barrack for a footy team. He had no idea who he wanted to barrack for. He thought, well, who are the current premiers? And it was Melbourne had actually won the 55, the 56 and the 57 premiership flags, 3 in a row. So Malcolm thought, great, I'll get on that bandwagon. The team was such hot favourites, it was incredible. It was just literally, you know, Melbourne were going to win the 58 final, there's no doubt about it. And they were so hot that people were actually predicting they'd win 59 as well and get the 5-year. No one's ever done that before. So Malcolm's on the bandwagon, a Kings man, red and blue through and through. 1958 Melbourne crashed and burned. And it was that day that the Malcolm Richards curse was applied to the Melbourne Football Club. Now I know some of you don't believe in curses, but if you think about it, Malcolm died last Thursday, the 2nd of June. Friday, the 3rd of June, Melbourne actually beat Essendon, a miraculous win. So if there's one positive that's come out of it, the curse has finally been lifted. I said 1958 was a big year. 1958 was also the first year that Malcolm got to do some work experience. He did 2 weeks at Keith Electrical. Absolutely loved it. They loved him. They said, "You come back and do some more work." He said, "Yep." "Do I have to go to school?" They said, "Yep." He said, "Okay, I'll do it on the weekends." He got a couple of weeks. He was stoked. But I think it really sowed the seed there on what he actually wanted to do with his life. In 1959, Jack and Maisie moved the family from Keith to Naracoorte permanently. And Dad was in year 10. He rocked up, I think it was about July, rocked up at Naracoorte High School. Didn't know anyone, didn't fit in too well, didn't really like school. He was 15 years old and the school sort of encouraged him maybe to go out and leave and get a job. And he managed to walk down to F&F Electrical and jag a job there. Spent a lot of time working with Johnny McGee under the Farmer Brothers. In 1974, Malcolm branched out and started his own electrician business. He bought a shed at Handyside Street, and MJ&BG Electrical was, no, sorry, MJ&BG Richards Electrical was born. We're having a look last night through the first invoices, just to see, you know, what the first job was, and I kid you not. Invoice 001, 22nd of July, 1974. To replace oven element in Simpson stove, repair, wiring and test. One element, $7. Service charge, $6. Customer, Brian Collins. I just noticed that had been paid, didn't Okay, 1976. Dad's been in business a couple of years. He was just doing a job across the road on the corner of McLean Street and Handyside Street. And he had to do some wiring on a shed. He thought he'd disconnected everything, but the person who had the house did a bit of their home wiring. And Dad's on the roof. He's actually picked up a live feed. And so he's kind of standing there, he felt it grab him, and he thought, shit, I'm a goner here, big trouble. But he had the presence of mind literally just to throw himself backwards off the roof, came crashing through the pergola, onto the ground below. Saved his life, a little bit battered and bruised, but we could have lost him in 76 very, very easily. He was very lucky to escape that one. Malcolm the sportsman. Dad was actually pretty gifted at a lot of sports and played a lot of them. A sport that he loved a lot was Australian rules football. He played over 100 games for Naracoorte, played A-grade, played reserve grade, played premierships, and his number was 19. And Greenie and Collie were telling me that up the footy clubs, locker 19 actually has Malcolm's name on it still, so that's wonderful. The late Dick Fennell referred to Malcolm as the tractor. Now, I'll put this into Malcolm's words, I think he explains it best. Well, I wasn't that quick off the mark, and at top speed I wasn't that fast either, and I couldn't really change direction. But once I hit momentum, look out, I'm coming through. Basketball was another sport that Dad had a crack at. He'd never actually seen the game before, and then when they're building the stadium with Snake, they were digging foundation holes and that sort of stuff, and ended up playing basketball up there as well. Cricket's an interesting one. When Dad was a young boy, he made the under-13 Keith Sapsaza cricket side. Greenie asked him, well, how'd that happen? He said, well, basically I was the biggest guy in the school and they wanted me in the team. Never played the game before, made the team. I suspect that there was probably only 12 boys of eligible age in Keith area at that time. Unfortunately, he didn't actually get to play cricket. He was due to go away with the team, but the weekend before he got injured in footy and ruptured his kidney, so cricket career ended. Greenie asked him a few years back, Malc, you watch a lot of cricket, how come you never played it as an adult? And he just quoted Shane Warne, can't bat, can't bowl, can't field. I've actually had the opportunity to play cricket against Dad in a friendly match, and I can verify that he cannot. He strides out, I pitch one outside the off stump, fairly full. Dad's hit it like this. It was a beautiful 9-iron onto the green, straight down mid-off's throat. Dad took it pretty well as he's walking past me to head to the pavilion. He can bloody walk over. Dancing was another thing that Dad absolutely loved, especially with a few beers under the belt. However, if you're on the floor with him at the same time, you really needed to look out for yourself. There's nothing like watching Malcolm and Bernie stir up a tornado. You see someone like Brian and Maureen majestically moving and evading, and they're just twirling through, and all we can hear is Malcolm, get out of the bloody way, Dopey! Darts. Dad loved darts. It broke up the week. Wednesday night, chance for a few beers. And some of the trouble that him and Swampy used to get into on the way home. There was one night they're sort of staggering home, they thought, we'll wake up Bob O'Donnell, we'll throw a couple of rocks on his roof. Dad's landed the first one on the roof, he's got a bit of sporting ability. Swampy's had a crack and just missed the lounge room window by this much. Dad loved golf, played it for years. He actually got down to a 4 handicap. In his young day, he could belt an absolute monster drive. I'd probably say Brian Garrick was about the only person who could outdrive him. However, his specialty was stitching up his mates on the weekend in the local comp. Basically, his strategy was, we'll have a long neck at 2, long neck at 4, long neck at 6, and a long neck at 9. By that stage, Dad would stitch anyone up on the back 9 easily. He also played tennis, A-grade tennis. The other sport that he absolutely loved and he excelled at was table tennis. He was an excellent A-grade table tennis player, and particularly the partnerships with him and Pommy Collins. Not only were they an absolute lethal team, they've formed a friendship from that moment that's lasted for years. It was absolutely brilliant. Malcolm the boyfriend, the husband, and the family man. The first time that Bernie laid eyes on Malcolm was 1964. They're at Hynum watching soccer. I have a hard time believing that Dad was out there watching soccer, but anyway. And Malcolm walked past and he had this huge shiner apparently. Bernie said, nice shiner. Thanks, love. Second time they met was at some other party, and Bernie's taken a bit of a stagger and nearly fallen into some sort of car pit. and Malc happened to be behind her and grabbed her. Struck up a bit of a conversation, and a bit of spark there, a bit of connection. Dad was pretty keen to get her home that night, but she was there with another guy and had to decline. They kept in touch, kept fertilising the relationship. It was pretty tough the next few years. Mum was up in Adelaide at Calvary, Melbourne, Mount Gambier, but across the long distance they were able to keep it going and formed a fabulous relationship. In 1967, Dad proposed to Mum. Despite most of Mum's family's wishes, she accepted. It's true. In 1968, they were actually married right here, St Thomas Aquinas Church. And the reception was just across the road. It used to be there, the St Mary's Hall, I think it was. To this day, Dad still believes that's the best wedding he's been to. And I have it on good authority that the wedding was February 24th. I was born December 31, so the months are getting a little bit close there. I have it on authority there wasn't any action that night because they both passed out. But he's a soft old soul, and in recent years, he's had a few battles, and in 2010, he sort of sat Mum down and said, I'm going to get there, Mum, it's okay. I've done some stupid things in my life, but the smartest thing I ever did was marry you, Bernie. That was also a family man. Obviously there's a bit of offspring hanging around. I was the first one, probably his finest work.
No bias in that.
Then came Marie, you get a girl, that's excellent, you've got a beautiful balanced family. And then Anne.
Yeah.
Kind of like an automobile analogy here, you know, every car needs spare tyres. Malcolm wasn't too hands-on. Unlike myself, I've changed a few nappies recently, and so has Ant, but times have changed. I can remember him sitting at the bar, we're talking about it, and he goes, I'm happy to admit it, never changed a nappy in my life. As kids, he was absolutely outstanding. I mean, he's a big guy, and he's probably the most brilliant horsey you find in the world. He'd get on his knees in the swimming pool, would jump on his back, get on his back on the lounge room. He's absolutely brilliant. The other thing I really like about him is he just had this wonderful direct advice. He had a great way of just cutting to the chase. For example, Maria was getting the age, perhaps being tempted by smoking, and Dad quite openly said, I used to smoke, it's bloody stupid. I only did it because it's bloody weak. If you guys want to smoke, do it. But do it in front of me, don't bloody hide in the toilets. And I think to this day, all three of us, none of us actually smoke, but just because we're allowed to, no, won't do it. Malc was also a grandfather. Marie and Mark got married in the early 90s, and their first child, Mum and Dad's first grandchild, Hannah, appeared. A year later, little Jack appeared. Then there was a bit of a dry spell, 2010 to be exact, but it was actually rain last year. Ant and Anna have pumped one out, and Simon and I have pumped one out. Unfortunately, or I guess lucky for Ava, that's Ant and Anna's, Dad's actually met Ava. Unfortunately, we didn't get Luca home early enough. We were waiting till Mum's 70th. We thought we'd have time, but we didn't quite make it.
It's all right.
To be quite honest, Dad's pretty ordinary with babies. I think it's the whole thing that he's a big, strong guy, they're a tiny, fragile thing, and it just doesn't go together too well. I think he's always afraid he's going to break them or drop them or something like that. That's what he tells us anyway. The real story is that he actually finds them useless. No, seriously, if you can't fetch a beer from the fridge for him, he's useless. Once you get to that age, you can get pop a beer, you've got the best grandpa in the world. The other thing Ant wanted me to mention was that a little known talent to Dad is kind of like a dog whisperer. Dad absolutely loved dogs. Dogs absolutely loved Dad. Some of the things he's done with dogs over the years, there was one that actually came into the yard that the dog catcher came around that was too scared to touch. By the time the dog catcher got there, it was asleep on Dad's foot at the bar. The dog catcher's still too scared to put it in the back to take it to the pound and put it down. So Dad had to pick it up gently and sort of said, look, sorry buddy, your time's up, and put it gently in the back, and it was quite happy to go. Incredible. However, if you're some kind of juicy crustacean or something like that, like a lobster, crayfish, yabby, fear for your bloody life. Alright, just coming to the last bit. When you get to Dad's age, he's died at 66. He was really hoping to make it to 67. His father Jack died at 67, he was hoping to beat that. I'm hoping someone in our family will get past 70 because it's not looking good at this stage. But you don't live 66 years without going to a few funerals and experiencing some death and some loss along the way. For example, Malcolm has buried his dad Jack, he's buried his mum Maisie, and he's had to bury his sister Pat. In the related family, Dad has had to bury a couple of sister-in-laws, or attend the funeral, sorry, Celeste and Philomena. There's been some absolute tragedies in Naracoorte where young people have passed away. We lost Lisa Bogarty, very young. We used to live in the same street as Rod Dupree. You know, those sort of things are tragic. Dad's also lost some great mates. I mean, who could forget Phil Harris, Appo, Ronnie Cat Sylvester, Johnny Mudguard Copping. You've seen all those guys go and more. So what I wanted to talk about a bit there was that there is a recognised grieving process that people should go through at this stage. So if we just go to the next one. Oh, you're ahead of me. Brilliant. Now, you'll see there's a whole heap of steps there, and I did actually speak to Malcolm about this a few years ago and showed it to him. He said, it's too bloody long, it should be easier. So what I want to walk you through today is the Malcolm Richards one-step grieving process. Let's go, Sam. And that's it. Remember the fun times. So let's give it a whirl. We'll see if it works. Just got a couple little stories here. When Dad was at F&F, working with Johnny McGee, you might meet a difficult customer or someone like Snake Ladder come in, you want to play a bit of a joke. They'd fix their toaster for them, put a bit of extra CRC on the spring. You'd see him in the street a bit later. How's that toaster going? Oh, it's bloody marvellous, Malcolm. They keep having to pick my toaster off the floor. One of the footy trips that Dad went on was down to Tasmania, and they were staying in a hotel or motel room. And there was actually a bedpan under the bed. Now, I guess it was the 60s and it was Tasmania, but anyway. Dad scrubbed it out, got it shiny and clean. Bit of beer, a few slices of cabana, put it back under the bed. Cleaning lady comes in. What do I do with this? I'll take care of all that, madam. The other thing that you don't see much, this is probably more an inside family thing, but Mount kind of like to do a bit of a sing and dance every now and then. Yeah. And I'll try and do this without the mic. I'll see if I can project. And I haven't got the dance moves, but I'll give it my best shot. So this is Dad doing John Paul Young. Oh, babe, you left me standing in the rain. I was getting blood wet. Haven't quite got the mood. It's better, actually. Another time we were out rabbiting with Bob O'Donnell, and we'd been through the whole trap thing, and Bob was trying a new technique using ferrets, and it was absolutely brilliant. The issue was getting the ferrets to come back out of the hole after they chased the rabbits out. So he's got a couple of ferrets, Zoe and Joey. So Bob's got his head down one hole. Zoe, 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 Zoe! Zoe, 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 Zoe! Malcolm, another rabbit hole. Be there in a minute! He had a bit of a devious sense of humour too sometimes. There was a time when Malcolm, myself and Marie played in a table tennis team together. And so the first time we go to fill in the score sheet, the referee goes, names. Malcolm goes, M. Richards, M. Richards, and M. Richards. The referee goes, well, that's no good, I can't tell you apart. Would the middle initial help? Oh yeah, it would, thanks. MJ Richards. MJ Richards. MJ Richards. The referee realises being handed that stage and just wrote, Dad, son, daughter. My personal favourite was just a couple of years ago, and again, this is Dad's directness. He's just absolutely brilliant. Mum and Dad had been overseas, and they flew back into Brisbane International Airport. I live in Brisbane, hadn't seen them for a while, went out to meet them, and we only had about a 15-minute window. And we literally come out of the international terminal, onto the Brisbane Air train, 1 kilometre down, they go into the domestic terminal and fly home. I'd let myself go a bit. Hair was a bit long, a bit scruffy, a bit overweight, a bit like now. Maybe not the suit. Mum's quite polite about that. She says things like, oh, I didn't recognise you. So I said goodbye to Dad, and he just reaches out with a big right bear paw, shakes my bloody arm out of the socket, get a haircut, and lose some bloody weight. And he's gone. Okay, so what I want to do is just finish off with remembering Malcolm. These are actually photos up here, so that's where most of the attention needs to be. And basically, there's just probably different ways that people in this room will remember him. Can you go to the first one, mate? There's Jack and Maisie, and that's Dad, age 5. Now, obviously they've now got the youngest son up there with them, and to him, he was their son. Next one, mate. This is the only photo we've got of the kids as far as we know. So the big guy's Dennis, in the middle is Pat. Pat's passed away a couple of years ago. Judy's on the left, and Malcolm's the little guy on the front. And Dennis and Judy will fondly remember Malcolm as their little baby brother. Dennis had a special name for Dad, Junior. Thanks, mate. Now, Mum, Bernie. Bernie probably has a few different ways to remember Dad. The first one I'd like to suggest is that she's met a lifelong friend. Have a look at him. That was when smoking was cool. He's got 2 long necks. One in the hand and one on the go. And he's taking interest in what Bernie's reading.
They're trying to cop a peek. Beautiful.
Yep, obviously Bernie will remember Malcolm as her husband, and like I said, they were married here. Next one, mate.
Soulmates.
Bernie will also remember Malcolm as the father of the children, and he's made it to all the weddings and so on.
Look at you.
And it's, you know, it's never a true statement. These guys are soulmates. It's unbelievable. Next one, Sam. From the kids' perspective, we'll remember him as father, sort of a guardian looking after us out there. Sorry, mate, next one. And more affectionately, I think we just like to remember him as Dad. And there's the three of us on his back. Okay, we'll through the last few. Sorry, here we go. That's not my one. So there's Hannah and Jack. That's the first grandies. And to this day, they still remember this. A, they were old enough to fetch a beer, so they passed the criteria. But B, they spent a great day in the bathtub. It was brilliant, while raining.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the labour. That's
No, it's Hannah.
that's
No, it's Hannah. That's Hannah.
Sorry, I got the wrong photo.
That's okay.
Next. Some of you remember Malcolm as the footballer, aka the tractor. He looks about 2 metres behind the play there, Frank. Some of you may remember Malcolm as the basketballer. Some interesting faces in that one. All of us will remember Malcolm as the electrician. I think this is the first photo of him in his job at F&F. He's probably about 18 years old.
Dog whisperer.
Dog whisperer?
The dog.
Thanks.
Twinkly toes.
Like I said, I can't do the dance, but he had it. That was interesting.
And hands full. Oh, the golfer.
That's where you want to substitute like footy. Scobie, come on in. Okay. People remember his mount, Richie, big fella, Rocky. You'll have to ask some people about that one.
Beautiful.
And there he is. That's how we'll all remember him. That's how we know him. And I mean, that just encapsulates the man. It's brilliant. Now, what I want to do is, this is just a little bit quirky, so bear with me. Can I please get you all to stand?
Oh, you do.
I don't know.
Brian, you can stay seated. All right.
Oh, you're on, you're on.
In your right hand, you need to imagine a nice cold can of VB. That's beautiful. Now with your left hand, we're going to open it, but it's going to be on the count of 3, and I want to hear a lovely shh sound as you open it. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Please raise your imaginary VB can. Repeat after me. To Malcolm. Larger than life.
Larger than life.
A gentle, jolly giant.
A gentle, jolly giant.
Malcolm's already finished his meal, better get another one.
Sorry, Father.